Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm delighted to have you here for a conversation about the Mission Sustainability Initiative at Forefront. I'll tell you a bit about myself, Forefront, and the MSI. We'll explore what we mean by strategic partnerships and how we celebrate collaboration. And of course, I don't want you to leave here without learning about all of the services, tools, resources, and funds that the MSI has to offer. I'll also share my contact information so we can continue this conversation one-on-one. My name is Kate Piat-Eckert. I've been the director of the MSI for about 3 months, so I'm still relatively new. I spent the past decade as the executive director of a theater company on Chicago's North Side, and I've worked in the nonprofit space in many capacities for the past 20 years. I'm overjoyed to have this opportunity to support the work of colleagues across the sector and across the state. Forefront is a membership organization that supports nonprofits and philanthropic organizations across Illinois through myriad programs, including the MSI. If you haven't already, I encourage you to learn more about all that Forefront has to offer and the work we're doing to support the sector in the background. You can learn more at myforefront.org or send me an email and I will connect you with some of my brilliant colleagues. The Mission Sustainability Initiative exists to support nonprofits as they explore and develop strategic partnerships. The MSI is part of Forefront and it's supported by a collective of foundations and guided by a cohort of advisors with a wealth of experience in many different facets of this work. When we talk about sustainability in the nonprofit sector, we often mean fiscal sustainability or organizational sustainability, maintaining a cohesive corporate structure. At the MSI, we're here to explore what it means to sustain the mission, the programming and the impact you're having in your communities, maintaining the work while rethinking the structure. We're a part of a paradigm shift toward a more collaborative ecosystem where we're able to accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. And I am honored to be on this journey with you. Nonprofit collaboration can mean a million different things, from co-producing events to cross-promoting programming, and I'm here to celebrate all of it. But when we talk about the strategic partnerships that are the stuff of the MSI, we're specifically looking at the types of collaborations that are fundamentally change the business models of the partnering organizations. These too can take many forms, and in all cases, the partnership is more impactful than the partnering organizations could be on their own. There are just about as many types of strategic partnerships as there are strategic partnerships, but some of the most common structures I'm seeing include everything from coalition building, where many organizations come together to work toward a common goal, to back office or shared space models, where organizations share anything from accounting services to physical space, all the way to mergers where two organizations become one. A recent coalition project we supported brought together multiple arts organizations in the same community to do collective fundraising. Or a shared space model might look like 4 social service agencies with similar clienteles sharing a storefront so that their clients can find related services more easily. Or it might be 2 grassroots organizations partnering to share administrative functions such as bookkeeping or database management. While mergers are probably the most well-known type of strategic partnership, they too come in many, many forms, from one organization becoming a program of a larger organization to 2 similarly sized organizations retaining their unique identities while restructuring to become 2 different branches of the same umbrella nonprofit. It's a huge space with a ton of ideas to explore, and truly every partnership is unique. So when do organizations do this work? I think it's easy to imagine an executive director beginning a conversation about partnership when they're facing a massive fiscal cliff or coming to terms with a profoundly unsustainable business model. And yes, helping find ways to sustain the work of an organization in crisis as it works to convene a more sustainable model is definitely a part of what we do. I am fluent in ED panic, and I am here for those conversations. But exploring strategic partnerships is more effective when it's done early and often. Regular strategic planning processes are a great opportunity to consider how partnering with other organizations can help achieve greater impact or overcome structural hurdles. Leadership transitions, and I know there is a huge shift happening in nonprofit leadership right now, are also a key opportunity to explore how an organization structures its work. Many organizations are currently facing the end of federal COVID relief funding, and as this fiscal cliff approaches, strategic partnerships can be an effective tool for building bridges to a business model that's tailored for our new and ever-shifting funding landscape. Whenever you begin exploring the idea of partnering with another organization, though, I am here to help. The MSI has funding and support to offer in 3 key areas. A big part of my work is what I call chatting, but what we officially call confidential consultations. I don't know everything there is to know about every type of collaboration, but I'm here to be a thought partner to executive directors, board chairs, or anyone trying to figure out how to navigate this space. I know that beginning this conversation can be daunting, and there's a real concern that if funders, staffs, or stakeholders learn about partnership discussions in the wrong way or at the wrong time, it can be deeply damaging. And everything we discuss in these conversations is held in strict confidence. Through these conversations, I can connect people with a host of resources to help organizations on their journeys. All of these resources are also available online, but it can be on our website, but it can be an overwhelming pool of information. So I am here to help guide the way. One of the most requested resources is our list of vetted consultants who work in this space. I do want to mention that I won't advocate for anyone to work with any one consultant in particular. I'm happy to point you toward multiple firms that I think could help with the specific kind of work you're doing, but the process of selecting a consultant that's right for your organization, that's all yours. And of course, there's funding. As a former executive director, I know that funding is the word that would get me to sign up for a webinar. While grant making is only a small part of what we do here at the MSI, it is important, and I'll go into a bit more detail about our grants process. It's important to note that we are here for all nonprofits, regardless of whether you're a Forefront member, but that right now grants are only available to organizations based in the Chicagoland area. We offer 3 types of grants, all of which support one-time costs associated with the exploration or implementation of strategic partnerships. Pre-exploratory grants are what I like to think of as the work we do on ourselves before we move in with somebody. They're often smaller grants for organizational assessments that help to determine one organization's readiness to embark on a partnership. Exploratory grants support the costs associated with 2 or more organizations thinking through how their partnership might be structured. This can involve everything from strategic planning to financial due diligence. Implementation grants support the work needed for a partnership to flourish after the ink has dried on the agreement. And this might include technical expertise to merge databases, consulting to support cultural integration of the staff structures, or marketing work on a new shared brand. The one thing that our grants don't cover are legal expenses. There's often legal work involved in these projects, and we can help connect you with various options for pro bono or low-cost counsel. I'll walk you briefly through the grant process. I know that every funder is different and it's not always clear how these processes work or how decisions are made. I want this to be as transparent as possible, so please don't hesitate to reach out with questions. Like everything else at the MSI, the grant application process begins with a conversation with me. This conversation replaces what might otherwise be an LOI process. It gives us a chance to make sure that the work you're doing fits into the admittedly very specific type of project that the MSI funds, and it allows me to point you toward any number of additional resources that might be helpful along the way. Our grant applications are accepted on a rolling basis. There are 5 deadlines per year. You can submit an application at any time. After our initial conversation, if your project looks like it might be a fit for MSI funding, I'll set you up with our application portal. In the meantime, there's a sample of the application available online. I will note that I'm currently evaluating our application process to ensure that it's as streamlined as possible. So the application may change in the future, but it will only get easier. The application will ask what one-time costs you plan to incur. So having proposals in hand for the consultants or service providers you intend to contract will be important. Once a grant application is submitted, I'll review it and ask follow-up questions if needed, and then summarize the proposal with a recommendation for how much of the project cost the MSI may be able to fund. Grant amounts typically range from $5,000 to $75,000, with the average grant at around $20,000. The actual funding decisions are made by the collective of foundations that I mentioned earlier. The funds that the MSI has available to grant out come from grants that we receive from foundations that are excited to support organizational partnerships. These foundations form a committee that advises our grant making. Our funders committee meets 5 times per year, hence the 5 application deadlines, so we can generally have a decision to you within about a month after each deadline. The next application deadline is coming up on April 24th, and we would expect funding decisions to be made in May. We do try to get funds into grantees' hands as quickly as possible, typically within a few weeks after the grant agreement has been signed. And upon the completion of each project, we'll ask for a brief report outlining how the funds were spent and what outcomes of the work were. I want to take a moment to note that while we do look at the goals set out in the application and explore whether those goals were accomplished, success in an MSI-funded project is more about organizations having what they need to make thoughtful, informed decisions than it is about finalizing a partnership. We call it exploration for a reason. Not every path leads to a clearing, but we're here for the journey and everything we learn along the way. And developing a strategic partnership is not a linear process, and often the conclusion of one phase of the work illuminates the need for another phase. A partnership developed during an exploratory grant might later apply for an implementation grant, or a partnership explored might not come to fruition, but one of the partners might later explore a different partnership. The grant cycle is an ongoing conversation as we work together to build sustainable collaborations. That is a lot of information in a short time, and there is more detail about all of this on our website, myforefront.org/MSI. I'm happy to answer questions about the MSI and how you might begin your exploration of strategic partnerships. And I invite you to reach out to me by phone or email or schedule a time in my calendar where we can talk one-on-one. Thank you.